Hello. So I'm working on the back of this truck. I would like to tie these two 4-link brackets together because the only thing that's holding them on is the fact that they're welded to the uniframe. And if you know anything about Jeep Cherokees or Jeep Comanches, the uniframes on these things are not the best. It's not as good as having a full chassis. It's basically just 1/8" sheet metal that's tack welded together in a bunch of places. So I'm gonna make some plates to go on top of this, I think. And then I'll cut up some tube, notch it, and tie these two pieces together. What that's gonna do is give me some support for these two brackets and also give me a mounting point for the fuel tank. Okay, so I cut these brackets out and they fit right inside the top of this. It's better for it to be inside, I think, because it's gonna stop movement from this way. I'm gonna go ahead and sand the edges and then I'll weld these on. Just like when I built these rock sliders, I'm gonna use a magnet to hold these in place, just like that. That way I can get them all tacked in right where they're supposed to be. I made these little notched tubes. They're about 1/2 inch tall. My idea is to weld these to the tops of the plates we made and then weld a bar that goes across. And hopefully that should stiffen this up really good. Just gotta get it set where I want it, and I could tack the notched parts onto the long tube. It's gonna be a challenge to get welded all the way around the back, but I'm sure I could do it. Kind of eye it up equal this way. It looks good. I'm going to tack that on. Now those are tacked on. Weld this up. That ain't going anywhere. Because I took a vote where more people wanted me to sink the tank deeper into the bed than just to mount it to the floor, I'm going to use this tube to help me mount the fuel tank bracket. Here's the fuel tank in question, and because we have this truck at full bump right now, if I mount this a 1/2 inch above these upper links, that should give me enough room for all my suspension parts and my drive line to miss this tank. I had put like 1 or 2 gallons of fuel in this tank just so that I could get the engine started. That worked out great. It's about empty now, which is good because now I need to lift it and move it around. I'm also about to flip it upside down so I could take some measurements and possibly connect these two bracket sides together. One thing is for sure, Barnes makes some pretty nice stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't mind having a partnership with them. I've got this flat piece of 2x5. I've clamped these two pieces down perfectly in line and perpendicular. I don't know why I'm bothering measuring. I don't measure anything else. That fits in there perfect now. So what I want to do is, for no reason other than just to get these pieces to stay in this configuration permanently, I'm going to weld a 1/8 inch strap between here and between here. Even if it's just tack welded on, it'll help keep these as one piece. All right. I need space for my battery on the other side of this fuel tank, so instead of mounting in the center, it needs to be pushed this way as far as possible. And then I also have to make sure that I have enough room between the tank and the cab and the bed to sit around and over the fuel tank. If I make a quick measurement here, this is the stud that mounts the bed to the actual frame. I could go 4 inches past that. So the next thing I need to figure out is how far distance do I have between the stud and the wheel well. 11 inches to be safe. So from that stud to here, Oh, I have plenty of room. And I want to be 3.5 inches in from this stud, 11 inches away from it. That stud goes through this mounting hole right here. So at 11 inches, is right about there. I could come all the way out to here and I'd be fine with that. I just have to get rid of this flange piece, which I'm not sure exactly what this was for because it wasn't connected to anything when I took this truck apart. That'll give me enough room to mount the battery on the other side of the bed, and if I decide to take my exhaust all the way back, I could go around the tank and go that way. Weight reduction puts us about there. Tell you what, that is way lower than it used to be. Approximately, I'd say at least 4 or 5 inches. That's straight. Clean all the paint off of that. I'll just do an inch here, inch here, an inch here, and then a couple more, and we're good. Smoky! Shocky! That ain't going anywhere. I could weld that on there like that. What's it gonna hurt? I'm kind of thinking that I should just mount this on there like that. It may look tacky now, but wait till I paint it. I welded myself into a corner. I can't get this stick out of there. Oh, there we go. Still a little bit of flex in it, so I gotta make one more mount that goes from, say, here to there, and that'll be golden. I'm thinking I want some pizza tonight. In fact, I'm thinking I want pizza every night. Now before we can paint this and before we can mount the tank to it, these two holes were covered up by welding it to the top of the frame. And so we need to drill those out and put some inserts in there so we can thread in our bolts. The nice thing is that because this frame is pinch welded along the side, these holes will go all the way through. And if we have to, we can put a nut on the other side. I'm gonna get some of these inserts. You guys know how these work. You take this insert, you drill a that size hole, you put that in the hole and you crimp it, and then you have a nice threaded hole to screw all your bolts into. So watching this video, you're probably wondering if this bracket is going to be strong enough to hold 80 gallons worth of fuel. Well, I weigh 280 pounds and I can sit on this thing no problem. That's plenty strong enough for me. And I'll have plenty of room over here to mount my battery, or even 2 batteries if I go that route. I can mount my radiator right here, my transmission cooler, my shocks will poke up right there. Might even have enough room to put a spare tire somewhere. I'm so excited to get this done because this means that once this is done and the rear bumper is done, I can cut the bed and put it back on, and I can start on the roll cage next year. I ordered the ExoFab cage that is meant for a Jeep Cherokee. It's basically a hybrid cage if you haven't seen it. And it's basically a 1.75 inch roof rack that has A, B, and C pillars that go down through the top of a Jeep Cherokee. I wanted to make it work for a Jeep Comanche, so I'm basically going to end it right here and use the extra tubes to brace these rear shocks and springs and reinforce the whole frame, hold my radiator and my transmission cooler. Next year is going to be an exciting year. So that's all I have this week. Tune in next Monday. We're going to cut this bed up so that these shock towers can stick through it and that fuel tank can stick through it. Who welded this?